The year is 2001. I am a freshman in high school. There's a girl that I really like, and she burns me a CD before I go on a trip to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I was singing in a national men's choir. True story. Not changing any of the details of this story. And she gives me the CD. I listen to it on repeat, and I feel like this is a message, meaning that we are supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and life is going to be great. And I'm 14 or 15, however old you are when you're a freshman. And while I'm there, she calls and she leaves a message. This is how old this story is. She calls and left a message at the front desk for them to let me know in my hotel room that she would not be my girlfriend and that we were going to break up. Now, the music that I was listening to is iconically tied to a guitar that I'm going to show you today. And this guitar, when I show you, wow, that's a big change in light. But I have a guitar this week that I have to show you that is like that sound test that you do that only old people can hear certain sounds and young people can still hear this high frequency. Here's the thing. When people see this guitar, it's going to split them into two camps. Either camp one is older folky music and the other is the beginnings of emo, the beginning of punk rock. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's see this guitar. I'm Jeremy. I'm the Guitar Hunter, and this guitar is so freaking cool. I have a hangnail in my finger, so everything hurts on my first finger today. Sheesh. Okay, here's the thing. This guitar literally splits the audience in half. Half of us, when we see this guitar, we think Dashboard Confessional. We think alternative, emo, early 2000s. There is no possible way in which you don't see this guitar and think about MTV Unplugged and think about Dashboard Confessional, the places we've come to fear the most, emo from that early 2000s, because most of us teenagers dealing with just the surge of emotions and feelings and thoughts and not feeling like we fit into whatever, all of that amazing emo stuff. And emo is not dead. Matt Cutshall is amazing. There's so much cool stuff continuing in the emo world. That's the main audience that sees this guitar. So when I see this guitar, that's all I think of. I think of big open D, not Dad Ged, but he plays in this crazy open D tuning, but huge strummy things, super loud, high-pitched tenor vocals. This is the kind of guitar that just, oh my gosh. If I'm nostalgic about Tom DeLonge and Blink-182 and this guitar, if I'm nostalgic about this guitar, I'm just as interested in this kind of guitar, which I've had this guitar for a couple weeks and I haven't known what to do with it or how to talk about it in a YouTube video. This is a 2005 Gibson J-185EC. J stands for jumbo, 185 designates the smaller size jumbo. So there's no real Martin comparison here. If you'd compare it, it's kind of like a Taylor Grand Pacific. No, a Grand Auditorium, maybe. It's a Martin. It's similar to a Martin M38 size, the M size. But so this is a smaller jumbo. It's not the Gibson J200, the monstrous gigantic. Now let's be honest. There's a thing that I skipped over, and you may know it, you may not. You may have already yelled at your computer saying that I'm an idiot. This is a J185. Dashboard Confessional, and the kind of music that I attach with this kind of guitar is actually the bigger brother of this. And I mean bigger physically. It's the J200. I feel better. I said it. We got it out. Okay. So this is the J185EC. EC stands for electric. This, being made in the mid-2000s, has a Fishman prefix pickup, which is bog standard. Completely the sound of electrified acoustic guitars from the late 90s into the late 2000s before you got better sounding pickups. It sounds quacky. I'll show you. Here I'll cut to a sample of how it sounds. Now, the C stands for cutaway, which I'm normally not a cutaway guy, but right here, what I found is this guitar is so fun and comfortable that I found myself playing up here. But I found myself getting up way higher than I typically normally would play, and the cutaway seems to work and it also gives it a cool look for sure. Now this guitar has mojo in droves. It's so cool, it's fun to look at, it's fun to play, and it sounds very different. And now we arrive at a 3-question gear review. The 3 questions are: what's good about this guitar? What's bad about this guitar? And if you're in the market, should you consider or should you buy this guitar? Now this guitar is for sale through me, and this video that you're watching is gonna live on way longer than this guitar is actually for sale with me. But what's helpful is seeing the tool of how I think through and process what a good guitar is and what a bad guitar is. If you're struggling to figure out what the right guitar is for you, I have made a tool that is a gift to you. It is gonna be a really good thing. It is 20 years of distillation of wisdom of buying and selling tons of guitars. It's called Right Guitars Faster. It will help you find the right guitars for you. It will also help you sell the wrong guitars, because we're gonna buy wrong guitars, and it will help you sell those guitars so that you get the most money out and you get to gain as much momentum as you can, so that the third thing, you can build a meaningful guitar collection. A collection that feels like you are equipped to be in every musical situation that you want to be in, and that you're able to show up with confidence and the right gear and the right tone and the right textures so that you help fill the world with music and friendship. It's the coolest and best thing I've ever made. I'm very proud of it. Check it out here and please buy it. That is a direct line to supporting the work of this channel and just the well-being and the good of my family and the studio and the life that we have here in Virginia. So, the 3-question gear review: what's good, what's bad, and if you're in the market, should you buy this thing? So, this guitar is amazing. There are so many good and likable things about this. Made in Bozeman, Montana, amazing quality. This is a Sitka spruce top. This is flamey, beautiful maple on the back and sides. I've heard it's called, Michigan Koa, and so it's just a beautiful guitar. I love the blonde finishes. I used to not like them. They used to be very stark to me, but they've really grown on me. I also love how kind of mellow and gold this Sitka spruce top is. There's also a beautiful abalone rosette. There's binding around the fingerboard. There's split trapezoid inlays. This is an incredibly likable guitar. I'm going to move the microphone out of the way so that it's not obscuring the view. So with this guitar all in, everything about this is just beautiful and cool, and it sounds really good. So what's good about this guitar as far as the tone? The playability is wonderful. The size of this guitar is incredibly comfortable. I found what I really like is this contour on the bridge here. And just the general size of the body, I was able to kind of put to where the flat of the curve of my wrist sits on there, and all of a sudden I'm able to get my hands right in there. Ergonomically, this guitar makes way more sense. And so one of my bandmates and an old friend of mine, when I was in college, I wrote a song, and there's a riff that I always play that I actually wrote on a J200. I wrote on Bradford's J200 in college. J200s are cool, but they're like this, but I think they have no chill, where this guitar has a lot of chill. So it is worthwhile to transition into what is bad about this guitar. And so let's look at this thing in the cool light of day. What's actually wrong with this guitar? Now, for me, well, let's go with the easy ones, and then we'll arrive at the one that I think is actually a thing that probably should change. Okay, so there's the tiniest bit of finish checking starting on this guitar. It's really, I didn't even notice it until I actually took this guitar to a friend's house last night and played it. And I noticed it in the different kind of light. They have kind of vertical light, and I noticed it a lot more. So there's a little bit of checking coming here from where, beside the pickup, the preamp. So it's coming out of either side, not the end of the world. I don't see any finish cracking on the top, but there is some on the neck heel back here. This guitar does not have a strap button, so that's a little bit of a problem. It wouldn't be a problem. I would just put a strap button on it. But I don't really see any finish cracking other than that. The guitar's in really good shape. Has an old style pickup. We'll talk about that in a second. Anything else about the guitar? It just hasn't really been played. So there is zero finish wear. There is zero fret wear. Now the frets they're very skinny. I didn't notice anything in the playability. It's incredibly comfortable. This guitar works really well for fingerstyle. Played a bunch of fingerstyle stuff on this. So overall, what is bad about this guitar? The only thing that feels very lacking to me is this pickup. Now, it's a mood. It's a thing. It sounds like pickups from that time, but it does not sound like an acoustic guitar. And so for me, and thankfully there are really easy kits that you can switch these out, I would immediately switch this to an LR Baggs Anthem, because you can do an Anthem that fits in the same box. If you wanted, you could also just delete this. I mean, you'd still have a hole. There's a hole in the side of the guitar, which is why I don't prefer these big preamps. But you could do a sound hole thing and an in-pin thing. But for me, the way in which this guitar does fall down is just that, I mean, we were limited by the technology of our time. And so in 2005, this is the best pickup on the market, which isn't really true, but it was just probably the most common and the most readily available. But this guitar, I have very, very little to say bad about it. Some finish cracking, which the first cracks are the hardest. They feel like things against the guitar when they're just starting, but a couple of years down the road, when there's a lot more and it's just cool and old and funky and full of mojo and vibe, it'd be a different story. It'd get moved into the what's cool about this guitar. That arrives us at the third part of this, which is, should you buy this guitar? And yes, absolutely you should. The more I play this guitar, the more I want it. This guitar, there are two crowds that are coming for these kinds of guitars. There are the Emmylou Harris, the older crowd that is coming after a comfortable, folky sounding guitar. And there's the second audience that loves this kind of guitar, and that is the 90s alternative, particularly Oasis listeners. Champagne Supernova, Wonderwall, this guitar just does that thing. It does 90s alternative really well. And the third audience that's really vying for this guitar is the fingerstyle, softer, not as loud, more thoughtful, more introspective, folky stuff. And what's interesting is if you look at all three of those audiences, you have super strummy, you have less strummy, more melodic, and then you have incredibly articulate fingerstyle and more thoughtful, quieter stuff. And so what you see is that this guitar is attractive to three audiences for three different things. And so all of that points to the fact that this guitar is incredibly diverse and incredibly capable. It can cover 1,000 miles of different kinds of music. So if you're a musician who needs to cover a ton of ground, a small maple jumbo, hubba hubba, absolutely. So concluding these thoughts, man, I think the more I play this guitar, the more I want it, and that's a dangerous thing because I cannot buy any more guitars until I get rid of some guitars. But this guitar is incredibly cool. It connects to the emotions and the vibe and just the human experience of people through multiple different generations. That's really cool to me. I'm really curious to see who's gonna buy this guitar and then use this kind of guitar to inspire the next generation. Like in 20 years, what Zoomers are gonna talk about, oh, you remember that person with that guitar, with the J-185 or with a jumbo Gibson guitar. So anyway, this is an iconic and really important guitar. It comes with an amazing case. It's a wonderful guitar. The only thing I would swap if it was me, I'd put a strap button on it and I would put a different pickup in it. But thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy, I'm the Guitar Hunter. What musicians does this remind you of? When you see this kind of guitar, what happens in you? What do you think of? What do you see? So thanks everybody. I'll see you later.